Hello everybody, welcome into another lesson. Today we are going to find least common multiples of numbers. If you recall from Basic Math 1, we did do least common multiples of numbers by listing out multiples of two numbers and then finding which one they had in common. But today I'm going to teach you how to find a least common multiple by using the prime factorization, which in my opinion is actually easier. So we have the numbers 4 and 10. We want to find the least common multiple of both of these numbers using the prime factorization. So start out by taking the prime factorization of 4, which would be 2 and 2. That's already factored as much as it can be. Then you have 10. Well, you got 2 and 5. That's already prime factored as well. Okay. Now, once you have found your prime factorization, what you're going to do, you see 4 has 2 2's, 10 has 1 2. If both numbers have the same factors, you want to circle whichever number has more of that number. So 4 has more 2's than 10, right? So you would circle both of those 2's. And then if there's any other factors that are not common to both numbers, you circle them, like the 5. So what you're going to have is you're going to have 2 times 2 times 5, which would be 4 times 5. Here, let me write least common multiple, the LCM. That would equal 2 times 2 times 5, which would be 20. So your least common multiple of 4 and 10 is going to be 20. And you may be wondering, well, why would I want to find the least common multiple of two numbers? Well, in the next lesson, we're going to be adding and subtracting rational numbers. So it's going to come into play when we deal with fractions. We are going to review how to add and subtract fractions in the next lesson. But for now, we're just finding least common multiples today. So yeah, as you see, this isn't too bad. But let's go ahead, we'll do some more examples. Alright, so we have 20, and then we have 12. So we have the numbers 20 and 12. We want to find the least common multiple of those. Well, let's start out with your prime factorization of 20. You, of course, have 4 and 5. 5 don't break down any further, but the 4 does. The 4 breaks down into 2 and 2. We've already prime factored 20 as much as we can. Now the 12, you're going to have 3 and 4. 3 don't factor any further, but 4 sure does. You'll have 2 and 2. Okay. So, we see here both 20 and 12 have the same number of 2's. So, pick your set of 2's and circle them. You could have circled either the two 2's from the 20 or the two 2's from the 12. It doesn't matter. They both have the same number of 2's. Then they each have a 5 and 3 that are not common to the other. So, you're going to circle those. So, your least common multiple is going to be 2 times 2 times 5 times 3, which 2 times 2 is 4. You'll have 4 times 5 times 3. 4 times 5 is 20 times 3 is 60. So the least common multiple of 12 and 20 would turn out to be 60. That's what you would get, is 60. Do some more examples here. And we do have some variable expression ones coming into play today. Alright, let's see. We have 2 and we have 9. Find the least common multiple of 2 and 9. Well, 2 don't factor any further. It's already prime factored, but 9 will factor down into 3 and 3. Well, in this case, neither of these two have common factors. If neither of them have common factors, you're just going to circle all the factors. You'll circle both 3's and you'll circle a 2. So the least common multiple is going to be equal to 2 times 3 times 3. So 2 times 3 is 6 times 3 is 18. The least common multiple of 2 and 9 would end up being 18. Let's see here. How about 15 and 75? So we got 15 and 75. Find the least common multiple of those. Well, 15 can break down into 3 and 5. And those are prime factored. 15's prime factored. You can't factor those any further. But 75, you would have 3 and 25. Okay. Well, 3 don't factor any further, but 25 does into 5 and 5. Okay. So, we see for 5's that the 15 has 1 5, the 75 has 2 5's. So you want to circle more, the one with more 5's. You'll circle the 2 5's for 75. Then they both have a common 3, so pick a 3 and circle it. I'm going to circle the 3 for 70 on a 75. So your least common multiple is going to be equal to 5 times 5 times 3. 5 times 5 is 25 times 3 is 75. So the least common multiple of 15 and 75 is going to be 75. I like to do one more with regular numbers, then we'll get into some variable ones. That's a good one. Alright, let's say we have 18 and 32. So yeah, you're given 18 and 32. Well, let's break down some factors of 18. You of course have 2 and 9. 2 breaks down no further, but 9 breaks down into 3 and 3. You've already prime factored 18 now. It's as far as we can go. Let's factor 32. You'll have 2 and 16. 2 breaks down no further, but 16 breaks down into 4 and 4. Okay. Well, 4's break down into 2 and 2. Alright, now we've prime factored 32. Well, let's start with what they both have in common. Both 18 and 32 have 2's in common, but 18 only has 1. 32 has 5. So, you're going to circle the one that has the 5 2's, which would be the 32. Now, they both, let's see, what's left is 18 has 2 3's, 32 has nothing else, so you'll circle the 2 3's. And then what you're going to get for your least common multiple is something really fun. You're going to get 3 times 3 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to, you have 3 times 3, that's 3 to the second power, times you have 2 multiplied by itself 5 times, so you have 3 to the second power times 2 to the fifth, which we know 3 to the second power is 9, 2 to the fifth power is 32, so you'll have 9 times 32. Now let's do that on the calculator so we can get our least common multiple. 9 times 32, the least common multiple is 288. So yes, we will have 288 as our least common multiple of 18 and 32. So whenever you have numbers again, you've done the prime factorization. If you have the same factors in common, you circle whichever one has more of those factors. You circle the one with more of the factors. And then if you have any factors between the two that are not common, you include those. Okay, so that's it for the number part. Now let's get into some variables. Because after all, this is pre-algebra, so we like to do variables too. Alright. What have we here? We have 20C and 12C. So 20C and 12C. So we'll do the prime factorization. Of course, you could break this down into 20 and C, and then 20 can be broken down into 4 and 5, which the 4 could be broke down into 2 and 2, and that's it for 20C. How about 12C? Well, of course, you'll have 12 and C. All right, we can break 4 down. We can break 12 down into 3 and 4, which 4 will break down into 2 and 2. All right, so we've done the prime factorization of both 20C and 12C. Now, let's look for any common factors. Well, both 20C and 12C, well, they both have a C in common, so circle one of the C's. Since they both have the same number of C's, just pick one of them. Alright, they both appear to have two 2's in common, so pick one set of 2 of the 2's. You'll circle that. Now, what you're going to find here is 20C has a 5, 12C doesn't, so you'll circle the 5. And then the 12C has a 3, the 20C doesn't, so you'll include the 3. You'll circle the 3. So then the least common multiple is going to be equal to, you'll have two 2's, so you have 2 times 2 times 5 times 3 times C. Which, when we do that math, let's see, 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60, times C is just 60C. So your least common multiple for this is going to be 60C. So it's a lot like doing the numbers, only you have variables. Excuse me, must be getting allergies or something. Sure is that time of the year. Alright. We have 16 a to the second, and then we have 14 AB. So 16 a to the second and 14 AB. So let's break down the prime factorization, which of 16a to the second, you'll just have 16, then a to the second. Well, a to the second just breaks down into a and a. 16 will break down into 4 and 4, which each of those 4's break further down into 2 and 2. Alright, we've factored 16a squared completely. Now let's do 14ab. You have three things being multiplied here. You have 14, you have a, you have b. Okay? So we broke down the 14 times a times b. A and b are broke down, but 14 can break down into 2 and 7. And those can't break down any further. So, let's look for what do they both have in common. Let's start with the 2's. They both have 2's in common, but 14ab only has 1. 16a squared has 4. So we'll circle the 4 2's. We want that. Okay. What else? They both have a's in common. 16a squared has 2, 14ab has 1, so we'll circle the 2 a's. And that's all they have in common. Now, what they don't have in common is a 7, so you're going to circle that 7. They don't have a b in common, so you'll circle the b. And then you'll have you can work out your least common multiple now. The least common multiple is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 7 times a times b, which we know 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that's 2 to the 4th. That'll be times 7 times, let's see, a times a, that's a to the 2nd power. Then we just have b times b, which 2 to the 4th is 16, times 7 times a to the 2nd power times b. Make sure you can all see that. Okay, good. Now, let's just do the multiplication. I'm going to put in 16 times 7. 16 times 7 is 112. So your least common multiple is going to be 112 times a squared times b, or simply 112 a squared b. So yes, your least common multiple will be 112 a squared b. So yes, these can be a bit of a doozy, but if you follow the prime factorization and then just figure out which of the two numbers has more of a certain factor, you circle the one with more, and then if you have uncommon factors, you include those. It's really not that bad. Alright, let's see here. We have 7x, and then we have 12x. 7x and 12x. Well, let's break down 7x. It'll go into, of course, 7 and x. We can't break that down any further. It's prime factored. But 12x, well, we have 12 and x. X don't break down further, but 12 breaks down into 3 and 4, which the 4 breaks down into 2 and 2. Alright, we've broke down 12x as much as we possibly can. So, what do they both have in common? Let's start there. They both have an x in common, so just pick one of the x's and circle them, because they both have one x, so just circle one of them. And then everything else, there's nothing in common. There is absolutely nothing in common besides that. So you're going to circle the 7, you're going to circle the 3, and then you'll circle both 2's. So your least common multiple is going to be equal to 7 times 3 times 2 times 2 times x, which we know we have 7 times 3 times 2 to the 2nd times x, which would be equal to 7 times 3 times 4 times x. So we do the multiplication. 7 times 3 is 21, times 4 is 84 times x. That would just be 84x. So the least common multiple is going to be 84x. That's exactly what you would get. Got a few more problems here, but I got like either 2 or 3 more. Oh, I think just 2 more. Okay. We have 75 n to the 2nd power and 25 n to the 4th power. So yes, we have 75 n to the 2nd power, 25 n to the 4th power. Well, let's break this down. 75 and n to the 2nd power. Well, n to the 2nd power will just break down into n and n. 75, you'll have, of course, 25 and 3 as factors. 3 don't break down further, but 25 breaks down into 5 and 5. And I'd say that's all we can do with 75 n to the second power. Now you have 25 n to the fourth power. You'll break this down. You'll have 25 and then n to the fourth power. N to the fourth breaks down into n times n times n times n. 25 breaks down into 5 times 5. Bit of a doozy, but let's look for what they have in common here. They both appear to have 2 5s in common. If you're looking at this, they both have 2 5s in common, so pick one set of 2 5s and circle them. So circle 2 of the 5s there. You leave the other ones out. What else? You have n's in common. 75n squared has 2 n's. 25n to the fourth has 4 n's. You want to go with which one has more of that factor. So you'll circle the 4 n's. Okay. And then the 3 is not common to both of them, so you'll circle the 3 since it's not common to both of them, and that's really all we have. So the least common multiple is going to be equal to 5 times 5 times 3 times n times n times n times n. So if we do the math here, 5 times 5 is 25 times 3, that's 75. Now you have n times n times n times n, that's n to the fourth. So your least common multiple is going to be 75 n to the fourth. That's exactly what you would get, 75 n to the fourth. And I have one more. All right. $20 CF. Let's see. We have 20 CF. And 52 F to the third. So we have 20 CF and 52 F to the third. Well, let's start out here by breaking these down. So you have 20 times C times F, so that'll actually break down into 3 pieces. You'll have 20 times C times F. C and F we can't break down any further, but 20 we can break that down into 4 times 5. 5 breaks down no further, but 4 breaks down into 2 times 2. And then we've factored 20 CF all we can. Now how about 52 F to the third? Well, let's break that down into 2 pieces. You'll have 52 times F to the third. Well, F to the third breaks down 3 ways into F times F times F. 52 will break down into 4 and 13. 13 breaks down no further, but 4 breaks down into 2 times 2. Alright, let's look for what these have in common. They both have 2 2's in common, so circle one set of 2's. You'll circle 2 of your 2's here, leave the other ones alone since they both have the same number. What else do they have in common? They have, let's see, 20 CF has 1 F, 52 F to the third has 3 F's. You're going to circle the 3 F's. You'll circle that. Alright. Everything else is not common. The 5 is not common to both, so you'll circle that. The 13's not common to both. Neither is the C. So you're going to circle all those. Whatever's not common to both that's left over, you circle. So it looks like your least common multiple is going to be equal to 2 times 2 times 5 times 13. And then you're going to have times C times F times F times F when you put all those factors together, which we know 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20, so 20 times 13, let's see, that's going to be 260. You'll have 260 times C, then F times F times F is F to the third. So your least common multiple is going to be 260 CF to the third. That's exactly what you would get. 260 CF to the third. So, yeah, that's all there is to that. So, with least common multiples, again, do your prime factorization. If you have the same number of factors for both of the numbers, you circle just one set. Okay? If one has more of a certain factor than the other, you circle whichever one has more. You circle more of those numbers then. And then whatever factors are uncommon to both of them, that like only exist on one of them, you just circle it and include it. And then that's how we arrived at 260 CF to the third. So the next lesson is going to seem like a basic math review, but it's going to have negative fractions in there, so we're going to throw that in. But we're going to review how to add, subtract fractions. So I hope everyone has a good night. Take care.